Hey, welcome to the Lead Generation World Podcast. My name is Michael Faree. Happy to be with you today. We've got a great show. We've got Alex Baydin from Performline joining us today. It's going to be great. We're going to talk all things RegTec and then compliance. They're celebrating their 13th birthday, so we're going to talk about sort of that journey through growing the company over the last 13 years and all the things that they're doing now. So it's going to be great to connect with Alex. He's been a part of the industry for quite a long time, and I just always love connecting with industry veterans. So we'll have him join us in just a moment. But before that, I do want to mention we've got Lead Generation World coming in January 17th through the 19th. It's going to be an in-person conference. We're really, really excited that people are supporting the event. In fact, crazy little fun fact, we're only a few registrations off our pace from last year. So, I'm surprised by that, just obviously with the current state of affairs. I expected it to be slower, but we're right on pace, which is really, really awesome. We completely understand that there are some people that won't be coming for good reason. Their risk tolerance isn't the same as others, and frankly, I completely respect that decision. But for those that want to travel and connect, we're really excited to host a conference in a safe manner where you can do that and not be at a major risk. So we're excited about this, and we appreciate your support. Unfortunately, registration just went up. The price just went up last week, but you can still get it for a great price of $695. It's going to be a great show. So definitely want to thank our sponsors, especially Leadspedia, a really excellent supporter, not only the Lead Generation Conference, but the lead gen industry. So thank you, Leadspedia, for sponsoring, of course, this podcast and the Lead Generation World Conference in January. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring Alex in and start talking a little shop. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Lead Generation World Podcast. My name is Mike. I've got Alex Baydin here from Performline. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Good to see you.
Yeah. So it's funny because I was thinking about this interview yesterday, and it reminded me that we actually did an interview. Could it have been almost 10 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe? And it was called, do you remember this? It was called Carpool Confessions of a Lead Gen Pro. Or something
Was
like
this
that.
In the hallway at a conference in Vegas? No.
No. This is, when I was doing the Lead Critic blog, I would do these interviews on the phone. I record it on the way into work.
Okay.
It was like a 30-minute thing. And
fun.
You don't remember that?
I don't remember that at all. I remember.
Well, probably with good reason.
Yeah.
But the point is that, we go back a little ways.
Yeah, for sure.
And you guys just came up on, what is it, your 13th anniversary?
13th year since founding the business, yeah. But, lots of pivots along the way, and I'm sure we'll get into all that. But,
So, just real quick, 13 years ago, compliance, the lead gen, the performance marketing industry was sort of going through sort of shifts in transparency and gaining transparency and all this sort of stuff and brands. And not only that, but the government was requiring, a certain level of compliance. And that's sort of when you guys got going, I suppose. But tell me sort of the genesis of Performline real quick.
Sure. Yeah. So the business was originally started as a media business. So we are very much right in the meat of lead generation and LeadsCon and performance ad networks. So we set out to be a better performance ad network. And the way we defined better was around transparency. So, the core model for performance-based marketing, then and to some extent today, is, being a blind network where you as the network are taking the risk and recruiting the publishers and paying the publishers. And you typically want to hold on to that information in terms of who your publishers are and provide leads and clicks to your advertisers. And I had this thesis that the largest advertisers in the country were not really motivated to circumvent the ad networks that were providing high quality traffic if it was also compliant, and that the value of actually exposing and sharing and providing transparency around who our publishers are or were back then would actually benefit us in the long term by building something that had sustained enterprise value, and in the short term by being able to charge more per lead than the other ad networks. So when we started the business, that was the premise. We were matching advertisers and publishers, generating leads and clicks, and providing transparency. And the way we did that was we wrote some JavaScript that would be embedded in our landing pages that we were driving traffic to, or our publishers were driving traffic to, and it would the JavaScript would capture the referring URL of where that user was online before they filled out a lead form, and we would provide that screenshot of that referring URL along with the lead report or the click report, so that our advertisers could see with their own eyes exactly what that user path was. And they're basically determining, hey, did this come from a high intent publisher, a paid search ad or organic listing, or was there some incentivization or something that was somewhat shady that took place along the way? And that was really how we got started. We raised our first little bit of seed financing on that model, but after a few years we started to hear something kind of interesting from our buyers on the media side, and they were saying, Alex, the lead quality is good, your volume is okay. And I was like, yeah, we're a small group, right? There's just a few of us, no surprise there. But that report you send us is really interesting. Is there a way you can help us get screenshots and get transparency when we buy from the large ad networks, right? The QuinStreets, the ad.coms, the DoubleClicks, the big performance ad networks. And that's when the light bulb started to go off that maybe our future was not in being another ad network, but taking that idea around transparency and turning it into something else. And that something else, fast forward a couple of years of figuring it out, became Performline, which is a SaaS platform for the buy side primarily, although we do have some publishers that are our customers, to allow their compliance and marketing departments to ensure that their communications with customers across any channel are compliant with both the regulations of their industry as well as their own branded marketing guidelines.
Yeah. So before we get into all that, because I got to admit, I was on your website and I was like pretty kind of blown away by the amount of content and resources the website is. I mean, there's tons of case studies and all kinds of stuff on it that someone can just really kind of geek out on, which is awesome. And it kind of goes into, we'll probably talk a little bit about the evolution of over 13 years and you guys just continuing to like build, this knowledge base to some extent. But when you look back, I mean, do you ever question that move of going to SaaS versus that ad network?
No, I mean, I just question why we didn't do it sooner, I mean, the business model of being a software company as an entrepreneur is just so much better in so many different ways, right? Like, if you're in the media game, you kind of live and die by the IO.
Yep.
But the reason why, software companies and SaaS business models in particular have these really high forward-looking valuations is because if you can retain your customers at a good rate, you've just got a base that stays with you that you just build upon and build upon and build upon. Now it takes a totally different skill set. And that's those first few years, we really had to learn how to go from being media people and digital ad people, performance media people to software people. And it's not easy. And, you pay a heavy tuition to make that transition. But once you kind of understand what are the right steps of execution, understand your buyer persona, understand what it takes to retain customers, very demanding customers, at a high rate, and you playbook that and repeat it, you've got, in my experience, a much better business model to build off of.
Is it, early on, was it the project management sort of aspect of it? That's, versions and taking feedback and versions and trying to manage that was sort of difficult to grasp onto, or not difficult to grasp onto, but to learn? Was that where the learning curve was, or what was it?
Yeah, I mean, that was part of it. Like, we've built, our entire product suite from scratch, and that's never easy, and you make the best decisions you can with the information you have, but it's a moving target. Just getting through things like InfoSec requirements, right? Privacy requirements, multiple, selling to multiple stakeholders. When you're selling media, for example, pretty much most buyers, are going to test you, right? They're going to spend $30,000 or $10,000 to test to see if the media ROI is there. So you're going to get your foot in the door pretty quickly. When you're selling to large enterprises, and we sell the, Fortune 100 companies, you may be in a 2-3 year sales cycle. Now, we've gotten that down over the years, down to sub 90 days on average.
That's amazing.
But, but it took a long time to get there, and we still have the occasional, 12-month sales cycle, and we have the occasional 4-week sales cycle. But you need to build different muscles in order to have that kind of endurance.
Yeah.
Right. And understanding, how those organizations make decisions and budget cycles, and,
what's
finding your champion and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's a different game.
What's it like been over the last, 6-7 months with regards to, because compliance doesn't go away, right? COVID, no COVID, pandemic, no pandemic. There's, in fact, and maybe it increases. I don't know. The concern for compliance.
Yeah.
But what has it been like from your guys' point of view? Looking at the sales cycle and companies, has it sort of? I might guess, has it sort of slowed down, and people have just kind of, slowed the cogs down on their machine a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the headline is I'm really proud of our team, and thrilled to tell you that we've actually exceeded. At the start of September, we exceeded all of our 2019 new revenue sales in 2020.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. That's awesome.
So we're having a really good growth year. The company's been very resilient.
What do you attribute that to? Is it that long-term play, right? Is it just those things from 2018, 2017 kind of coming to fruition in 2019, or is it something more fundamental around compliance and the need for compliance?
So there will be a tailwind. That's the result of the crisis that we're in, but that we're not there yet, right? We got to get through the election.
Yeah.
We got to get, and I talked about a lot of this stuff on my webinar with Richard Cordray right at the start of, when the pandemic hit us all. Richard, was the former director and founder of the CFPB. That will happen, and we're in a great position to help companies and at-risk consumers when compliance budgets, increase, and there's this new renewed focus on helping folks that could be getting into trouble with predatory loans and things like that. But I think our success this year and our resilience in the crisis just has to do with, really strong operational practices. We've been doing this so long now. We've got almost the entire business playbooked. So the team was really amazing at keeping focus and not getting distracted. And, we had at the start of Q2, we weren't sure how affected we'd be. We saw a lot of our pipeline get frozen. Right. We had some customers that said, hey, we're under a lot of pressure to reduce costs. Can you help us? And our client success team, played the long game. We were there for our customers. We were able to give them some of them some temporary reductions, which are coming back online now, and save the logos when needed. And the sales team, after maybe 45 days of not a lot happening, they were able to invigorate those opportunities. New opportunities came up. We actually found ways to help the markets that we go into as a result of COVID. So I'll give you a COVID example, and then I'll let you know about something else we did around the same time. So a lot of our product is based around this concept of a rule engine that helps our customers determine when there's signal that they need to take action on in their communications. And the product and platform are omni-channel, so we do this in web, call center, chat, email, social, and we're working on our 6th channel, which is in beta right now. Maybe we'll have time to talk about that a little bit today. And we realized that, if you were reading the news and paying attention, there were a lot of borrowers that needed forbearance. They needed help from their lenders. So we created a rule book around forbearance related to COVID. And that was able to help our customers discover with data and analytics when they had customers that may be about to ask for forbearance, for example, and find those customers quickly within those phone calls and those customer interactions, and then take action on it. Another thing we did around the same time, but in response to, I guess, the second crisis that our country's been dealing with, is helping companies deploy rules around being true allies and supporters of Black Lives Matter and social justice issues. So it's not uncommon for a large financial services company that, let's say, has loan officers spread throughout the country to want to monitor and surveil, what those loan officers may be saying on their social media posts, for example. And they need to make sure that those folks acting as employees or agents of their company are following their corporate guidelines and stance on things like being anti-racist. So we created a rule book around those types of issues. And we figured that Performline could be most impactful if we could use our technology in that type of manner, and then allow our large customers that truly have global scale to deploy it. And that's one way that we can be part of this solution, on this very important topic. Yeah. And those two things are also helping our business along the way. So.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, because at the end of the day, you can monitor anything, right? I mean, not so much. I mean, yes, the channel is because you guys cover just about every channel, but when it comes to content, words, or you can identify items that you want to look for, right? Across.
Yep, items, terms, sentiment. So, the bulk of our business is around compliance monitoring, but we also do a fair amount of performance management. So where we are monitoring chat transcripts, for example, and we're looking for how those conversations flow and which ones lead to better outcomes and which ones tend to not lead to the desirable outcome, and then providing that data back for training purposes and script management and things like that. So that's really not a compliance use case so much as it is helping our customers, salespeople, perform better.
Yeah, that's really interesting. How long have you guys been doing that sort of chat monitoring to success monitoring?
Yeah, and we do it in phone calls as well. Yeah. I think we've gotten into it in a big way in the last 2 years.
Yeah, have you guys
probably started it 3 years ago, but have really gotten feature leading with some of the point solution providers out there.
Yeah.
For example, like we now do dual audio track scoring. So we can apply different rules to your customer than we can to your agent. And we have a whole layer of pro analytics so that you can slice and dice the data to determine, who your all-stars are and who are the folks that may need additional help.
Yeah. It seems to my layman's point of view, like really complex to be able to try to score a conversation or have enough conversations to learn, what is identifiably better than another. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not easy.
I
It's
mean,
listen, 13 years, tens of millions of dollars invested,
yeah. Well, so
people and
so do people that
technology.
use
It's not.
that are they able to sort of identify, some at least key learnings to go, okay, these chats here seem to be, working better than, these over here. And are they um do you see that they're providing information that is, actionable in any, in that sort of way?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the pieces of our platform that I attribute to really helping us retain our customers at a high rate and our customers being super engaged in the data is we built a workflow layer and remediation layer. So not only are we discovering potential violations or discovering signals of high performance, for example, we're allowing the customers to take action on it through the platform. So we can see which of the rules are the most acted on. We can see how over time a customer may start 1 month with 400 open compliance violations, and by month 9, they're down to 100. And they're closing, resolving at a much higher rate. We track responsiveness of their partners. So if the violation or potential violation, I should say, is coming from a third-party affiliate, maybe that affiliate took 7 days to respond initially before they were using Performline. Well, over time, we're going to watch that 7-day window close to 1 day on average, because it's just more efficient. It's in-system ticketing. You're getting these communications outside of email. Now they're on a single platform, and the responsiveness is great because that's really what you want, right? You want single version of the truth. You want to be able to find all that communication and be able to kind of point to your success as a chief compliance officer with the rest of your executive team.
Yeah. Excuse me. That makes sense. So let's go back for a second. You have, like we mentioned, there's multiple, I don't know, do you guys call them channels? Like, SMS, web, text, calls, chat. You mentioned, so we have SMS, we have chat, we have web or online, right? We have calls.
Right.
What's the
So last year at our conference, we launched social.
Got it.
Social. So in 2019, we launched social, and social has been a big hit. So this gives our customers the ability to monitor their social presence. And that may not seem like a huge task if the only one communicating on social on behalf of your company is your social marketing team.
Yeah.
But if you have 2,000 loan officers spread throughout the country, right, they're using Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube to recruit customers and to build relationships. And they've got all kinds of regulations that they need to follow when they put those communications out there. And that's very hard to do without a tool like ours. And one of the things that separates us is the automated nature of it. So there are some services companies that are out doing that manually today on maybe a quarterly basis, but we're able to do it, almost 100% in an automated fashion, and that gives our customers just much more coverage and therefore a lot more risk mitigation.
Yeah. I don't know how much you want to talk about, but how does that work by the loan officers providing their social media profile links, or is that something that you can go out there and sort of find by?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've been really consistent about is we don't want to give the companies or the publishers or the people that are being monitored any work. And if you think back, like we were getting started around the same time as our friends at Jornaya, with kind of an adjacent use case. And one of the ways our companies diverged is we never required publishers to put anything on their website in order for us to monitor them. And that has pros and cons. And the same thing in this example with social. We don't require the independent agent of the parent company to do anything in order for us to monitor their content. We found other ways to get that content without violating any terms of use agreements from the social platforms. And this is happening, on a really big scale. Goes back to your earlier point. So, I'm just looking at a part of the new website that we launched just this week, where we kind of talk about some of the volume of the assets that we monitor. We've monitored over 25 million unique assets, and when you take those 25 million unique assets, and those could be phone transcripts, websites, social posts, and you bump those up against the rule books, that's over 400 billion compliance observations. And all that data we learn from. We can eliminate false positives at a good clip from. We can find out what's truly actionable. We know which websites, maybe have more risk than others, that sort of thing.
Is that a challenge for you guys as far as data storage? I mean, because compliance, what do you have to hold on to that for 3-5 years? Like how long?
7 years.
7 years.
Right? Yeah. For some archiving requirements. Amazon has made it a lot easier and cheaper than it used to be. So it's a cost of sale, but it's not. It doesn't prevent us from driving the margins that we want to drive.
Sure. So actually going back, you mentioned Comply. You guys started Comply, which is your compliance conference. What was it? How long ago? 5 years? Yeah, 5 years ago. Can you believe that?
Time flies, right, Mike?
Yeah. And unfortunately, you guys weren't able to hold it because it's usually in the summertime.
May, like the first or second week of May. So we postponed, everybody else, right? Yeah, because of COVID.
Which is a bummer. But that's kind of a great, like I say, back to the website, you guys have a ton of great content, but you also have that Comply conference that has a ton of great speakers. I mean, you guys do a really, really good job at bringing high level speakers, whether from the federal government or the different industries in to speak. Must have been kind of fun. Who knew you were going to be in the event business?
Yeah, no, thanks, Mike, and that's high praise coming from you. It's you're one of the best in the business and organizing and running industry events and bringing high quality content that's relevant. So, and I really appreciate your props there. We think about our conference under the banner of community, right? Yeah. So we think it's our job to build great product and to support community. And the conference has been a really fun way for not just the Performline employees, but for the community of compliance professionals and marketers who care about compliance to get together, to share ideas, to network, to get inspired. I mean, I think that's kind of part of it is we would attend compliance conferences and they were boring for the most part. They were typically in windowless, ballrooms at hotels. And, you were lucky if there was a crab cake at the end, and it just wasn't that fun. And we wanted to make Comply fun. And we took inspiration from, big, exciting marketing events like HubSpot Inbound, and we tried to infuse both content as well as fun and inspiration. We've had break dancers, as and yo-yo specialists and all kinds of live bands, but also the top tier of regulators and industry experts and vendors. And it has been fun. It's a ton of work, as and this year posed all kinds of new challenges that we're still sorting through, like every other conference organizer. But it's turned out to be a really kind of bonding experience for my team, I would say. When you have an event-based thing like that, a time-based event, you have to step up, right?
Because it's all hands on deck, I'd imagine.
It's all hands on deck. Everyone supports each other, and we've done things like we'll do call-a-thons leading up to it, where we're taking our sales team that's typically used to doing everything over LinkedIn and email, and we're saying let's get on the phone one day every 2 weeks and just
it's a great
call
idea.
People and old school, and and I mean that's just one example of the way we kind of rally get in the trenches together and then make sure it's a success. But there's probably 50 examples like that.
Yeah. So you obviously you had to postpone it or cancel it. Are we on for May 2021? Is that sort of is that where the goalpost is now, or?
Well, we're sorting out all the options right
Yeah.
now. And we try and do it in New York every year. And New York's all, as you know, all the states have different restrictions and requirements. So we think it will likely have a big virtual component, but we don't want to get away from doing in-person events when we can do it in a safe way and when our customers are comfortable there.
Yeah.
So I would just say stay tuned. We're still making some decisions on that.
Yeah. Well, you got time. You got time, right? I mean,
you know how fast time goes when there's an event looming.
I know that's the truth. It's so, one of the things about events is that you try to, have to plan out, far in advance. I don't know, let's just say 9 months out, but really the action and the people getting attendees don't really sort of take their action until, 30, 60 days out. So it's almost like a plan, but wait, and then you kind of get everything going, and towards the end and sponsors and everything starts to kind of come in. So it's an interesting scenario where it seems like when I say you have time, people generally don't make decisions until, a couple months out from the conference.
But it's a chicken and the egg thing, as you know.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, if you don't have the content and the draw, you may not get the people.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, hopefully it works out. Hopefully, by May we'll have some sense of more security for people, all people to travel.
I sure hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you guys probably did your sales team travel a lot prior?
We do, and not just my sales team. My client success team travels. My product team travels. I mean, we're you would say we're an in-person company, right?
Yeah.
Like we really value FaceTime, both with each other and with our customers and prospects. And going back to how proud I am of the team, like everyone really learned to be an animal of different stripes very quickly. So, the sales team that was on the road, a couple times a week or a month, they quickly became a really efficient inside sales team. And one of the things that we've done really since day one is delivered all of our quarterly business reviews on site when possible.
That's great.
So we're making sure
still
that
connect as a culture and a company, right?
Yeah, and to sit down with our customers in the room and not only show them the efficiency and the results of using our platform, but to coach them a little bit, to teach them new features, and just to build that personal connection. But you know what? Like the rest of the world, our customers and our team have adapted, and we're doing the QBRs over Zoom, and the customers are showing up and they're highly engaged, and so we'll see if that changes. I mean, I think we hope to resume travel, but we obviously have to be patient.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I mean, assuming, we get past sort of this, do you feel it's going to be like, okay, let's get back on the road, or is it now kind of, does it change your opinion on that travel budget at all?
I think it's going to be, I think what we're going to do now is take into account more individuals, comfort level.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
But I listen, I hope that in a year, whatever time, we're going to look back at this, and this will really be, from a business standpoint, right? Not to diminish, the significant health concerns and financial concerns for so many people. And I think it'll be a bump in the road. And I think a lot of the things that we had fun doing and that worked for us, we'll pick up again.
Yeah.
Like travel.
Yeah.
Business travel. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important. I mean, we're all, human nature at the end of the day, right? We want to connect with people, fist bump, shake hands, whatever, get dinner, and you can't do, have that connection over a Zoom or whatever it is.
And I'll tell you, the biggest supporter is my wife. She's not used to me being home for
Get
7 months.
the hell out of here. When are you leaving? Yeah.
What are you doing? Don't you have a flight to catch?
Oh man. So tell me this. So looking back at like the, what's happening now with regulations and what's taking place. What's sort of the hot focus as far as regulatory compliance. The things that obviously come to the top of my head is obviously TCPA. That's always going to be something. I'm seeing what's the Americans Disability Act with 80 whatever, is that what it is?
ADA.
Yeah. But what is it? Is it any of those things, or is it more about brand compliance? That companies are sort of focused on right now. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's you need a broader view to really understand the path that we're on and the trajectory of this space called RegTech, and it's really about the digitalization of the compliance practice. Right, this was historically a very kind of back of office manual type function, and just like other departments in the enterprise, be it marketing or finance or HR, have been on this journey to bring everything digital, right? And platform based things. That's what's been happening at the compliance department. And we think we're like in a really good position to continue to meet the needs of those groups that are going through that transition. And one of the things that we're excited about and have been working really hard on is our 6th channel of coverage, which is in beta right now with a few of our clients, which is document review. So what document review is really all about is proactive automated verdicts on marketing assets before you ship them. So a lot of our solution today is about finding potential violations and helping you as a customer clean them up, maybe before a regulator finds them, maybe before a consumer gets hurt by them because you didn't really know it was out there. Maybe it was a sub-affiliate of an affiliate or a third-party call center rep that hadn't been trained appropriately. And this move into documents kind of puts us much further upstream. And it saves the companies a lot of time and allows them to acquire customers faster, because at every big company there's this dynamic that takes place where you've got usually a pretty large healthy marketing team, and you typically have an understaffed, under-resourced content controls compliance team, but that marketing team can't really deliver on its campaigns until the compliance team reviews and approves all of those assets. And those assets could be direct mail pieces, brochures, billboard copy. They could be titles and descriptions for a keyword campaign. And then I'm primarily talking about in regulated industries, right? Be it financial services, pharma, energy, education, insurance, technology now. And what we've built will allow a lot of that bottleneck just to open up. And in fact, quite a few of the assets may not even need to go to those content controls people, because we're able to review and approve them based on the rules of that customer in a near real-time fashion. And then the marketer will ultimately get the green light to launch that campaign and acquire that customer that much faster in a more compliant manner.
So when you talk about documents, you're talking about like a PDF or a Word doc or whatever, maybe just fill the content, and you're gonna what are sort of the rules or the things that you're looking for? It's obviously sentiment, some probably keywords, all that sort of stuff. Is that?
I mean, it's similar to the same marketing guidelines that exist on a landing page. Is the interest rate accurate and up to date? Are there any potential violations or missing disclosures? Yeah. Is the NMLS number accurate and present and clear and concise? Is there directions for a user to find the privacy policy for the company on a website? You name it.
Yep. And so what they would just sort of upload it and get it reviewed that way? Is that how that would work? the
Yeah,
document?
I mean it can happen through our platform. Ultimately, it's going to be able to happen through APIs.
Okay.
We're going to be connected into the content platforms where the content is being created,
Got it.
and then there's a workflow layer so that the cases can be managed and the assets can get approved and tracked.
Man, that's really great. I suspect that sort of relieves a lot of stress on the marketing department, right? To be able
Yeah,
to have that established and not have to second guess something. It's all there, and
yeah, or they're getting emails from their colleagues. Hey, when have you gotten to my direct email yet?
yeah,
When are you gonna get? When are you gonna approve it?
yep,
Um, and the compliance folks, they need to, everything needs to be tracked and audited, and they need a single record of the changes that they've requested and the approvals and that sort of thing. So we
yeah.
can help them with that.
One thing that stuck out what you just mentioned, and I don't know if I sort of keyed on it correctly, but you mentioned that right now, you sort of the focus is moving from the sort of back of office to more digital online tracking and of the compliance. Um, 10 years ago, maybe even not so much 10 years ago, it was just a matter of getting some brands the head out of the sand, right? Like saying kind of avoidance of the problem.
Well, I think that was just the for-profit education sector.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
But
as those, it was a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
those
yeah,
companies back in, 13 years ago, them,
yeah,
that, we would meet with them and show them what we built. And they were under a lot of pressure, right? They
yeah.
were under a lot of pressure from the Department of Education under the Obama administration, because there were some bad actors there. And it wasn't that uncommon to hear the objection, aren't I better off not knowing? That's what you're
Right.
talking about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's what I'm talking
Because
about. Yeah.
if I know I got to do all these things, and if I don't do them, and there's an examination, right, we're going to pay a fine or
Yeah.
potentially Title IV. So a couple things happened, right? So those, as you know, that industry uh, really shrunk, and a lot of the uh, really bad apples went out of business. Some of the larger for-profit education companies converted to non-for-profit, um, and we still work with a lot of great schools and learning platforms, both in the undergraduate and graduate degree level, and that's where we got started. Um, and it was a very important industry for us, especially as we were making that pivot from media to software, because it wasn't
Yeah.
overwhelmingly large, right? We could, within 2 years, we had the top 5 online education companies as customers. We could really get our hands around it
Well, they had a
because,
big need for it too. I'm right. They were getting
yeah,
attacked,
there was a lot of impending events,
Yeah. Yeah.
but maybe they came to it a little too late for some of them to actually ultimately save their business. Now, if you look at a sector like financial services, it's a totally different dynamic, right? In financial services, um, they've for years and years have committed lots of resources to compliance and risk.
Hmm.
So they have teams dedicated to this sort of work. They have technology budgets. They have true owners assigned, to work in your platform, to work with your client success team. You're not necessarily, that, and I've heard some of your other podcasts where you've talked to some folks in the space that really, either had trouble because they were so focused on the education space, or maybe they also pivoted out of it at the right time, and that really, looking back, ended up being a very smart decision. And I feel like we can kind of take that stripe on our shoulder too, that chevron on our shoulder, because it was about 7 years ago where we first started working in financial services, and now the vast majority of our client base is in that space. But we're also doing work in technology, in insurance. We're doing work for some gig economy companies.
Is there an industry out there that kind of is reminiscent of those EDU days that you're like, these guys better get their act together, or maybe that's not the right way to frame it, but there's opportunity for them to, get more compliant, so to speak.
Yeah, there's some. Listen. I think online gaming, right, is really in its early days here in the U.S. and you've got a few major players, and I think
What's
that's.
their compliant risk? Like, what's the risk that online gaming has? Is it
So
the transactional thing, or?
I'm not an expert in
Yeah,
online
yeah,
gaming. We're
no,
not in that space yet. I'm just starting to look at it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
listen, there's, you have to be of a certain age. I know there's regulations about helping people raise their hand if they have a gambling addiction problem. There's probably disclosure requirements about what certain bets
Got it.
actually
Got it.
could
I
result
was
in.
thinking when you said gaming, I'm thinking like,
Oh, gambling. You're right. I used the wrong. You're right. You're thinking like Fortnite.
yeah,
I
yeah,
meant,
yeah.
I meant online gambling. Excuse me.
Got it.
Uh,
Got it. Got it. Yeah, yeah. That makes
yeah, my
sense.
bad. So that's one. And then, the cannabis industry, right? So that's
Oh yeah.
also a brand new space. Um, the rules are, somewhat
All over the
opaque,
place.
and
Yeah.
you've got state rules. And so, like, we spent some time, for example, with Health Canada when they were, leading up to their federal legalization. And, that was kind of interesting for us to see how they were going to monitor some of the advertising rules around that.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
see what
really
happens.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
cannabis, because each state, right, has their own. I mean, it's probably not any different than any other vertical, but each state obviously has their own guidelines um, and things, and there is an online portion to it as well, too. I think at least here in California, I think you can order things online and have it delivered.
Well, I mean, there's definitely online advertising. So
Yeah, yeah,
whether the
exactly.
commerce happens online or not, they're
Yeah,
all
good
gonna,
point.
yeah.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. I suspect that'll continue to be, something to look at. And the gambling is interesting too. I mean, online gambling, had its day, like 15 years ago, and then they sort of regulated it all. And where's it at now? I mean, is it just by state now as well, or?
Well, I think you've got DraftKings, right?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
what's the other one? FanDuel.
yeah,
DraftKings, FanDuel, and then you've got the New Jersey casinos, for example. So again, I'm not an expert.
yeah. No, that's fair.
I'm not a gambler.
Yeah,
Uh, so when we
yeah,
go to Vegas for the conferences,
yeah.
you don't see me at the tables, right?
No,
So,
same here.
um, but there's certainly, communication regulations, right?
Yeah.
Truth in advertising laws there.
Yeah.
So those are two that came to mind.
All right. So going back to sort of just what's happening just globally in compliance. Well, not globally, but here in the United States. What are sort of the hot topics today?
Yeah. So the big story, is really right now what happens with the election.
Yeah.
So if Trump loses, everyone feels that we're going to get a regulatory environment similar to what it was under Obama, but because of the coronavirus crisis, a much more
Aggressive.
a much stricter,
Yeah.
kind of more assertive compliance environment to protect at-risk Americans or Americans that have lost their jobs, Americans that have gotten sick, those sorts of things. So that's kind of the phase that we're all in now. We're watching what's happening, and we're like, okay, if Biden wins, is Elizabeth Warren going to be in his cabinet? And as you know, Elizabeth Warren, the CFPB was founded under her direction. So,
yep. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next couple months, but I suppose, that's good for you guys to some extent, right? More concern around compliance is good. And so what else is on the, what do you guys have on the agenda for the next couple months? What are you guys up to? Are you doing some online virtual stuff or as far as content?
You'll continue to see some webinars, that we typically brand as the Comply Summit series. We just
announced
just announced one the other day with the I believe, the GC of Microsoft.
Yep, I saw that. And they can just go on. Can they just go to performline.com to register
That's
for
right. They can go
that?
to performline.com and they'll find the sign up, and it's all free.
Yeah.
Your users can check that out. We've got a lot of exciting things for our product. We're building out capabilities on our social platform, our social monitoring module, and we're getting ready to launch documents commercially, which will happen at the start of next year.
Okay.
And we're hiring. We've got a handful of open jobs. We're looking for great people in almost every department.
Nice.
And
remote,
just
obviously, or would you prefer them to be in the tri-state area or New York, or?
Our preference historically has always been the tri-state area. We're headquartered in a town called Morristown, New Jersey, which is about 35 minutes from the city. However, roles on our engineering team can be remote, can be anywhere.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on the group and the team. And we may start building some presence out west. We have this theory about travel that the first wave of business travel will be regionalized.
Yeah.
So, you may be less likely to get on a 6-hour flight from Newark to San Francisco than you would be to fly from, let's say, Salt Lake City to San Francisco.
Yeah.
So, there's going to be roles in client success and sales, for example, that we may look to fill out west, because that's where a lot of our target market is, and that's where a lot of our existing customers are.
That's great. Well, I'm looking forward to all that stuff. If people want to find out more information, I suppose just go to the website and probably join a newsletter or request a demo, or use a contact form and reach out to you guys there. Is my guess.
That would be awesome. I mean, Claire and the team have done a great job just relaunching the website. Just relaunched on Friday.
I think it's awesome. Like I said, the first thing I said when I was, this podcast, I looked over the website. I'm like, man, there's just a ton of stuff to go through here. I'm looking at it right now with rule books, workflows. I mean, all kinds of things, case studies in different industries.
It's funny. I don't know if you've ever felt this, but over the years, we'll talk to somebody and they'll say, oh, your website was so great. It was so useful. And I'll just be thinking in the back of my head, oh, I hate the website. I don't think it captures at all what we do. This is the first time in literally 13 years where I feel that somebody can come to the website without even reading a word, just by looking at the imagery and kind of how the sections of the site, and they can see what industries we service, what channels of coverage we provide, how we integrate with third-party platforms. So it's kind of thrilling, because when I think about what we've been able to accomplish, in a really capital efficient way as a business without a website that's done that, I'm pretty optimistic about the future.
I think it's great. And it's got to be the most difficult thing. I always struggle with when start writing things that it turns into a paragraph, right? And nobody wants to read this stuff, right? For the most part, they want to catch it, get it.
And they won't read it.
No,
right?
They won't. That's and to be able to communicate something relatively complex with compliance and a service like this, I think it's awesome. But
it was all the marketing team. So
yeah, you mean you didn't do it? You didn't do it on your own? No. But seriously, there's tons of stuff on here. I actually encourage anybody that's interested in compliance or case, anything around it should at the very least come to the website and check it out, and check out these workflows that you guys have, and the case studies are pretty cool. So, well, listen, man, I appreciate catching up with you. I know you don't. I'm a little hurt that you don't remember our first interview back in.
I remember the second one, and I remember the third one. I'll remember this one.
Yeah. But it was good to catch up with you and talk about what's going on and all that kind of stuff. And it's awesome to watch the progress of Performline, and heck, maybe another 13 years seems like a long time, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Maybe you can retire before that, but
we'll see. But listen, I just want to thank you, Mike. You've always been a great friend of the company and a great supporter. And thanks for this opportunity to tell our story. And I wish you the best luck with your upcoming conferences and events and everything else you got going.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I'll talk with you later. Thanks,
All
Alex.
right. Take it easy, Mike. Thanks.